understand what you wanted to get into at this time with the meat of it is the world within. Is that right, Brother Gates?
That's right.
All right. If you see that long sheet there, I think it's on the reverse side, page 2. We have a whole list of things called the world within. We have them on tapes. You can buy the tapes, and it will tell you in detail each of those subjects. There's no way I can possibly cover all of that tonight. Each one of those is a 2-hour lecture. But I can simply say we can overview it. I can begin to explain to my limited ability what I understand of the underworld and why it is so prominent now. It's not the only subject we cover. As you can see, we have close to 70, 80 subjects there. And each one has been at one time dear to my heart. But I'm now honoring what the people asked me for. Right on the tape is what we have. Each of those tapes is for sale. All you have to do is either get it from me tonight if I have it. I have a whole box of them, video and audio, or order it from the medicine. So again, you don't have to ask me about that. Each one is explained in detail under that listing. In fact, I think it's the number. I'm doing this so that we can forge ahead and everybody will be satisfied and understand exactly what is being offered. So I can find that sheet is right with it. Let me borrow yours 1 second there, please, if you don't mind. Yeah. As you can see on the second page that she was looking at, the world within starts here and goes all the way down to there. And for the beautiful young lady who asked me again, did I have anything new since then? Yeah, that's this one subject new. These are those world within. I'm trying to still find one of my own. That way I can kind of skim through a little bit about all of them and dealing with the world within. The United States Park Program, High Auroral Area Research Program. Some say it's a whole different acronym for those who are in the know. Is a project that they have in Alaska and that they have ready to supposedly deal with over the ground, over the horizon contact with the United States troops or anyone else who chooses to buy into the program. They're saying that this is to help people to communicate in the armed forces or in the military or in government projects. The secondary thing is supposedly to find dormant mines, meaning in the ground, or dormant veins of precious metals by which they can mine it. The HARP program has found that on the continent of Africa, which of course, as we know, is Kemet, there are large veins of gold and diamond, not only in the areas that they previously thought, but that are going halfway around our planet. And wherever a continent has these kind of deposits, you have not only wealth, but you have, as they're finding now, higher vibrations. Keep that in mind. What people covet, kill, and fight for, gold, diamond, silver, copper, are actually supposed to be used to raise vibrations. Within every human body is gold, copper, iron, bauxite, and some 38 other metals. Minerals and metals all comprise our blood, and you cannot have good blood without minerals, and minerals are no good without vitamins, and everything links together. When we see metals, and we begin to see these metals in an efficient form being utilized, we think of them as hardened things that can be worn. I have metals on here. Each of these metals you see is a magnet. I disguise my magnetic field by wearing them as jewelry. There are 2 magnets here. There are 4 magnets here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are 4 magnets here. These 10,000 golems, or gauss and ohms, as they call it, of magnetism, are presently running through my body. We lack magnetism. We can't think straight. We can't think long. We can't think in complicated form. Our glands are out of order. One way to align it is using a magnetic field. And you can use that by wearing it on your body. The blood is made up of the same thing. What does this have to do with the HARP program? Everything to do with the HARP program. Wherever you have a continent or a landmass, or if you live on a mountain or you live in the water, and these things are prevalent, you live better, your organs work better, your hormones are secreted better, and better yet, your brain can adjust to different frequencies and begin to utilize what it's supposed to be. They say we use less than 1/10 of our brain. I think we use less than 1/10 of 1% of our brain. I'm not trying to be egotistical because I am a victim of that. I'm trying to do something about that when I found out how dumb I was. Not because I'm a dumb person, I think I'm an intelligent person. But the brain doesn't have the power to do half the things it's supposed to do. That's one of the reasons why earlier you heard me say we have an electromagnetic field. And the power to start to really use our deeper side, our hindbrain, you want to call it that, is just coming back to the planet. It was taken away and adjusted so that anybody on this planet could only reach a certain amount of intelligence. I don't even call it intelligence, I call it spirituality, deeper thinking. The world within is the hidden key for everything on this planet and the reason why we're going through all the changes that we are going through. If you don't feel we're going through changes, you're not listening to the news, or I don't know where you've been keeping yourself. Everything you can imagine, every phylum, every mineral, every insect, everything is coming into juxtaposition and fighting each other. Everything is trying to change frequency. I go back by saying, and this could really, could take you back to ground zero, a man by the name of Nikola Tesla, a Hungarian Austrian, at the turn of the century, came up with a new principle. It really wasn't new, but he called it a new principle. And by the way, he said it was given to him by people from Venus. This is what they never tell you. And this new principle involved a coil that he created called a Tesla coil, named after him. He stated, he did not originate this. This was given to him by extraterrestrials. And in deeper metaphysics, you must separate extraterrestrials from aliens. An alien is anything that is intelligent, that exists in the cosmos. I didn't say solar system, I didn't say universe, I didn't say constellation, I said what? Cosmos. Anything that is intelligent. And there are things supposedly intelligent in this cosmos that you wouldn't dream of, or maybe you would, because the movies are bringing it out. It didn't say it had to be humanoid, have a head and 2 arms, 2 legs, and a trunk. It said intelligence. Now, anything that is humanoid, has a head, 2 hands, trunk, feet, is extraterrestrial, meaning it has an intelligence that has either been on a planet like this, exists somewhere on this planet, or one like that. Therefore, they're usually more empathetic or sympathetic if they exist. Okay? The HARP program is said to be able to upgrade communication. The secondary thing HARP said was that it could now dig deep into the ground with these energy rays and find out where caverns are, where anything in the earth going all the way down to 600 miles could be. And there's a deeper reason for that, not only to find out where all the gold and silver and so-called precious metals and minerals are, but to also find out where underground caverns are and underground tunnels. Based on that is where one of the big hidden mysteries of Earth is. I always say, and I have, let me say something else too. I admit to being a little neurotic, right? I admit that my neurosis grows daily, but I say I am not psychotic. And if you understand the psychotic individuals that are running us and what they're doing to us, you also would have a little bit of neurosis, and it would grow daily. If you look out here and see these public storage buildings that they're building, and understand the federalized prison organization is building it, and they're in every city and every county, and people aren't storing things in it, but they say, what? Public storage. They told you the truth. You get a little bit neurotic. If you are an ant, and there's a gossamer or something underneath you, and it begins to shake, and you hear a lot of paws coming, you think it might be a spider, you get a little neurotic. Some people might even say you become psychotic. But I think we're already under the rule of psychotic individuals. Power mad egomaniacs that are reached the point where they're psychotic with the endeavor for one thing, power. They have all the money because they print the money. They have control, but they want more power. The power now that they can get will be when they can utilize or conquer what they call the underworld. The hidden area underneath our planet which nobody seems to know much about. You've heard nothing about Orpheus in the underworld. The Egyptians and Nubians talked about Amentet, the land of sticks and so on like this. In the Bible there's reference to hell. Helen means hell and is to cover. It comes from the word Helen. Hell is derivative of that. By the way, too, to settle another argument very quickly, or to start you to thinking and maybe hopefully that argument away. The word hell got into the Bible from the abbot Odilio. The abbot was a holy man at the time who came from Cluny, Ireland. And while he was writing his portion in the about 780 AD, he saw some of the crusaders who came through the Hellesport, which was called the gateway to the Mediterranean, okay, from the rocks of Gibraltar. And it was stated that while in the land through the Hellesport, he heard moans and groans and cries of the tormented in Amentet. Now, this simply meant that there were lands inside near the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean, North Africa and so on like that, that had deep tunnels and caves. And people from time to time had heard moans and groans and cries and shrieks like people in torment deep beneath the earth. And it was known that this area was lined with many caves and many tunnels. Most people didn't know how deep these caves and tunnels went. Because of this, and because of his dedication to the secular world, if you would, this abbot then wrote in that through the Hellesport, in the areas referred to as Amentet, were the people who were being tortured and all for their sins that were committed on earth. And this became part, of course, of Holy Text in the Old Testament. The Hellesport exists in many places. There's a place near Brittany called Malta. And Malta used to be visited by tourists all times of years. If you know, Malta has been closed, certain islands that within the Malta Straits, to the public because of something that happened in 1942 there. There was a group of school children from England, I think it was about 30 of them with a school marm and a guide, who went down on one of these tourist straits, and two of the kids strayed off from the actual lineage of people that were going to visit, as a speleographer would do, these tunnels in these caves. Long story short, two of the kids came back, but four kids who went after them didn't, and they were crying and shrieking and said that they saw some big people with big heads down there, and that they had grabbed the school mark. Well, they sent people down, they were never found. They saw huge, gigantic prints near a mud area there. They found an underground river that they didn't know was there, and nothing was ever seen of them since. This went back to legends that existed about Malta as being one of the areas that the people from the underworld would sometimes surface. With that, they closed Malta. You'll find that there are at least 305 different open locations on the surface of the planet that is known about that lead to deep down tunnels. Some of the tunnels, if you go to many of the museums, in Chicago, I know the Museum of Science and Industry, the Field Museum, I'm sure the Smithsonian Institute, many places, and you start requesting speleographers or speleologists type of things about caverns and things like this, you'll find there's a whole world right underneath your feet. Caves as big as cities that you could put Detroit into 4 times. Tunnels, that they call tunnels, that may be 4 miles long and 2 miles wide. Those are called tunnels. And they seem to be in sections, getting down deeper and deeper into our earth. Now, what has confused people is that the geologists and many even of the astrophysicists have given a false impression that at the core of Earth is a molten lava area there, and that degrees of this lava spews out, going in circular beds around the planet, and then finally some of them may even get to the top, where they now have dormant mountains, and all mountain ranges were formed by volcanic action. We go back over that again. Anytime you see a mountain range, Allegheny, Sierra, whatever you want to say, anytime you see a mountain range, understand that came from eruptions. Gas or something was so powerful and needed venting somewhere that it formed these mountain ranges. Acts of nature, seaquakes, earthquakes, have slammed continents, what they call tectonic plates, together and formed others. But these were formed by pressure. Any mountain range can become active. I repeat, any mountain range can become active. Why? Because the very tunnels that form them are now encrusted. They're still there. And if gas, lava, anything that could form pressure is ever vented through these tunnels, they will seek again the path of least resistance, which means pre-existing openings. And underneath all mountain range in the core, there's going to be a hollow tunnel area leading down the southern. So keep that in mind. Any mountain range can become volcanic. And if you're keeping up with the latest news, many of them are as we speak. So as you listen, and I'm talking right now, it's something that they don't want to talk about. And so they're diverting you with all kind of political ploys and everything else, and sports and everything else. The point is, these tunnels are becoming active. Volcanoes are again beginning to become active around our Earth. I have some things I wasn't thinking in terms of going to get this deeply into it tonight, but I do have some internet drawings from NOAA, which is oceanic and something else part of the government that does these things from satellites. I can show you fires breaking out all around our planet as we speak, and fires that are going on too numerous to mention. You know, we're talking about thousands of fires, not just down in South America where they're lying to you and telling you that it's because farmers are burning their crop. The whole state of Florida, every county in there, I think it was 3 counties that were not untouched. It has nothing to do with farmers burning crops. It has to do with the heat, but it also has to do with volcanic action beginning to take place under our feet. They're lying to you about it because they don't want to scare you, and they do want to control you. And when people panic, they're beyond control. You either kill them, imprison them, or you have what is called a revolt. So they're keeping all of this quiet. Our planet is becoming possibly volcanic or so. But understand something else. It's my understanding that what they've told you about the structure of our Earth is not correct. And what they told you about a molten lava center, and then everything just coming up with like a little onion skin through little areas, and then you run up a big mountain and reverse back, is not true. But our Earth has 7 layers. And each layer, if you say it was inhabitable, which of course we know we can't live inside the Earth, right? If it was inhabitable, you'd have more space inside than outside because you have just one. I don't have a blackboard here, but you can use your own consciousness. You have one space to live on the surface. But if you've got 7, each one getting smaller inside, you have more livable area inside than out. And the mean temperature of most tunnels is 60 degrees, 62.7 or something like that. There's one variance when volcanic activity happens, then those tunnels heat up. Other than that, anybody could live inside, and there's plenty of air down there simply because just in the huge tunnel itself, if air ever was there before, and it had to be to form stalagmites and stalagmites, then you have to have air down there. There's water down there, whole rivers that flow. Right here in the United States, this is what Grant was, when Grant was trying to, what's this other guy who fought the Civil War, Southern General? Lee, yeah. Lee had planned to attack the Northern Army by going through tunnels that Jesse James had used and that the Daltons and stuff had used that exist actually from Lookout Mountain. You can walk underneath Tennessee, you can go through Missouri, you can go through Kentucky, you can go through Indiana and never touch the surface. And they know this. And there are whole rivers that flow down there. There are different kind of creatures down there. Most of them are very pale and big eyes because there's very little light. Then you have whole areas as big as Detroit, as big as Chicago, that are well lit, and they don't know how they're lit. They just know that they are lit. The rocks seem to give off a glow. There's atmosphere down there that is more breathable oxygen because it's not full of methane and hydrocarbons that we have here than here. And some of the waters that flow to these underground, especially landlocked lakes, come from underground. In Hawaii, and Maui, and the out islands and so, they have islands that go down deeply in those craters that seem to be smoking fumes and so, but you walk on a side path and you come in from a different area, you find yourself in a whole different kind of world. Whereas Hawaii is limited, and the outliners of it, you could almost walk to the United States from the Hawaiian chain. Now all of this I could prove to you if we had time. I'm giving you a big, deep overview of the whole thing. The world within is said to be an area of Earth that they don't talk about, and that there is more livable space inside our planet than on its surface. The problem comes about is that supposedly there are creatures or things living down there already, and have been for centuries. They say that there are cities down there. Some of the cities are no longer habitable, others are actually inhabited. Getting into who lives there and why and all this takes again a whole lesson, as you can see by this sheet. Down there also are very advanced machinery And it's been said from time to time, advanced scientists there have set on the surface people and things to see how they make out from time to time. Now, all of that is talking about the world within. What I tried to do before we jumped to that big jump that we just did was to show you how it could be formed, how long it might be there, and that it is very extensive and very expansive. And you can go to any continent on our earth, and down somewhere you start running to one of these tunnels, one of these cities, one of these caves. The cave world depletes or makes small the world here. The Egyptians tried to show that. The Nubians tried to show that. All ancient people, which they now refer to as Sumerians. If you understand, Sumer had to be part of Mesopotamia 1. And if you go back there, you see that the people who had to be living there had to be dark-skinned people. And these were people who knew these things. This is why when you begin to do research on the Negrito, you will find he is the most ancient person found on earth. I didn't say anything about Negro or any African. I said Negrito. It's a little black dwarf. And this little black dwarf seemingly has been set or made to inhabit. It was the best prototype that could be made at the time. Any part on earth that you go to, no matter what the continent, no matter what the culture, no matter what the religion, no matter what the site, no matter what the people look like now, anywhere you go on earth and you start to do digs, and you go down archaeologically to the Petro and so, you will find the little black dwarf or people living there, the ancestors of the people that are now inhabiting it, that look like Negritos. What does a Negrito look like? 3 to 4 foot tall, small person, very slender built, occipital lobe, long head, peppercorn or nappy beady hair, and broad negroid features. This is your most ancient man, no matter what continent. You don't have to go to Africa. You go to Europe, which isn't even a continent. You can go to Asia. You can go to Antarctica, Arctica, wherever you want to go. And you will find the remnants of the Negrito. Which means that if this person was everywhere on the surface, how did he get? How did she get everywhere on the surface? They were intelligent, but obviously not intelligent enough to do what the things that have been found alongside them. I say they were a prototype, placed here from people living in the underworld and extraterrestrials. Keep in mind again how I started this. Extraterrestrial is one who looks somewhat like you, meaning has a head, arms, legs, and a trunk, and usually stands erect. An alien is what? Anything that is intelligent. If it's a bug, like we just saw in what is this movie they had out there, Men in Black, okay? If it's any kind of thing, as long as it's intelligent, it's an alien. I state that through the many literatures, the holy books around our planet, way out metaphysical books, and the not so way out historical books, when they get time to talking about the underworld, they usually begin to give you images and footnotes and references to other things. It is a natural ploy and a fact that they don't want you to understand the truth or the falseness, the story of the underworld. As you can see, I've gotten pretty extensively into it, and I have all the way down to 7 parts. Some of these are not even for sale, even though they're listed here again. And it pretty much answers the questions that you would have about our Earth, about the origin of races on our Earth, about the war that is going on about our Earth, what our Earth actually is, why the intelligent people of Earth do not live on the surface, and why the people that are on the surface are adaptogens. And to be an adaptogen, you must have melanin. Skimming through a lot of things and getting to the core. It's a lot for you, that's okay. I'm not running away. I'll stay here and answer questions on this. Melanin is something that none of the physical chemists, none of the biologists, none of the geneticists can break down. The best they can do is to quantumly delineate melanin at its sites and how it acts under certain chemical conditions. It can't be broken down chemically by the science that we have here now. And anywhere it is, it dominates. It dominates any gene. It dominates any cell governor, any protoplasm. It articulates what can be taken in and changes frequencies within. It makes you be able to see with your hands or react without going through the brain. One of the things that they told me in school, I spent a lot of time in there, that big training program that they gave me. I got educated after I left because they gave me enough training to find out that they lied. They told me another lie. They told me this. I put about the no two things occupying the space and all. They say there is no action within the body that cannot be governed, controlled, or accentuated by the brain. Biggest lie ever told. Wherever you have strong melanin at a melanocyte, that cell has potential to think for itself and operate. Now, I know that sounds like mad. I told you I was neurotic. I have never admitted to being psychotic. I'm not crazy. But I am very upset and nervous about the lies that are being told, and especially to people who need it the most, who therefore don't understand their gift and don't understand the time that is now with us. Hold the question. I know you have comments and questions all over the place. Well, I'm sure you'll have more by the time I... Oh, I'm sorry. I finished. Melanin is the key to the underworld and the exterior world. Why do I say that? Melanin is an adaptogen. Let me go a little bit. Even though we're talking about the world within, we have to talk about the world within you first, because you are the same thing as this planet. You have everything this planet has in you, but we just don't know how to use it, how to get to it. Melanin, when it is present in a cell, lets it adapt to frequencies, infrared and ultraviolet, full spectrum light, darkness. It is adaptogen. When left alone, and when augmented by making the pineal gland, which secretes melanin, active, and the pineal gland is just like a big crystal. It is your biggest crystal. It represents, again, in fact, to give you another little secret out, the pyramid that they saw at Giza, because they have 350 other pyramids on the surface. I don't know how many thousand inside. Okay? It represents the ability to crystallize thought, to send in higher infrared and full spectrum light throughout every gland in the body, to attenuate the body's blood, because the blood is nothing but a river of moving crystals. Urine is nothing but a river of moving crystals. Your body is nothing but a big crystal. And the big crystal that organizes all of it is the pineal gland. They even told you in med school and pre-med and everything else that the pineal gland was an atrophied, dormant organ no longer necessary in human species. Well, in human species it's not, but in mankind and man it had to be. Human is a whole different derivative anyway. That's where we made a mistake. We think human is man. We don't understand that mankind, man, and human, womb man and non-man, the nomos, are a whole different species. They have collectively mistreated you and misguided you. I state this having gone through their training program, and now I'm giving you truth. You may not accept this truth, but at least you'll hear something that stimulates your thinking. You may already have reached this conclusion. You may never have before, and you may think I am psychotic. I already told you, I'm not psychotic. You're right. Okay. Now, the story is that the creation of this planet, as it started in a cooling down process, it was not only just a planet that cooled down, but a special adaptation was given to this cooling down area to make this a very unique, almost super-made habitat. Most planets don't have what this planet has. There's supposed to be 22 others in this whole universe like this one. Because here, anything that could live and breathe could be accommodated. This is a beautiful planet. If you've traveled about it, you've seen it. The only thing not beautiful on this planet are the minds of individuals. There are beautiful people here, of all colors and all shapes. But the thing that makes us different is the brain and the mind that functions through that brain. And because of that, they have messed up a beautiful, perfect planet. But they haven't done much to it in the underworld because most of the people don't know how to get down there and don't know what to do down there once they're there. Every island and every people has legends about creatures or people, some looking different ways, that have come from out of the earth, outside of mountains, and come down the side of mountains. You hear of UFOs, Ventlas and Brahmanas, that's another term you should be using instead of UFOs, that have come out of mountaintops. From time to time, people have prayed for rain and done rain dances, and they got rain because they appeased the gods or they got the attention of the gods. We laugh because we don't understand. There's very little laughable about this planet. Really, this planet is a planet of tears. They call Ceros. Because what has happened here is diabolically terrible to a people and to a most beautiful organism, which is called now the planet Earth. As this planet cooled down, it supposedly was visited by the elves. Now, we hear the word elders and all its derivatives. If you would look up in the Funkin' Wagnos, or again the Masonic book of the dictionary, again now the Masonic dictionary, it will teach you again that the elves are usually made because they use the L shape, which is in, of course, the English and American language. But that shape crosses language. That shape is found in all. If I had a blackboard, I could show you. But even the cross shows you 4 L's, but from different parts. If you take 360 degrees, each 90-degree division is an L. And if you say that this 90 and this 90 and this 90, you would form a cross. But that is really 4 L's. The 4 L's supposedly were like archangels or very advanced people who came for the 4 corners to finish off the project that was called the planet Ceros, or, well, the other names for it, which we now call Earth. That symbol has been universal. It's been found in petroglyphs and hieroglyphs. Petroglyphs means rock writing, hieroglyphs is sacred writings. All sacred writings will show you the cross. And they tell you, of course, it's a Christian thing. It is not a Christian thing. Long before Christianity was ever thought of, they have found these things. They have found them in petroglyphs, which means in rock writings, beneath the ocean lines. In caves deep beneath the waters, you still see that symbol. In Tutankhamun's tomb, you found that symbol. Akhenaten's area, Ramesses area, you will see this symbol. In Miro, Tiahuanaca, Uxmal, down in South America, you will find the same symbol. Amongst the Native Americans, you will see the same symbol. And you will also see what is called the thunderbird. That what is called the caduceus, that round circle with wings. Everybody has it, they just call it different names. You will also find the swastika, which Adolf Hitler, of course, used. He did not invent that. He embellished on the original cross by giving it direction. The story is that these people that were here came here to affect the planet to bring in a special scientific project, were still not able to understand that they were not gods, or they were not the creator, because while they were here in mass, our sun reversed polarity, and the sun behind the sun reversed polarity, and 12 other suns reversed polarity. Now, what time are we talking about? Wouldn't even do to even use time lineage. We're talking about millions, if not billions of years. The story varies with culture. But they were here, and they got caught up in a magnetic sun anomaly. The sun reversed polarity, and they got entrapped because they were not creatures with bodies. They were mental creatures. But once a sun reverses polarity, then you're captured in what is called time. And that simply means that now you get frozen and you have to take on physical structure rather than just being pure mind manipulating structure. That's why the phrase, there's nothing new under a sun, comes about. A sun means already that is a controlled environment. These people supposedly then were abandoned. They called themselves the abandoned ones, or the abandondero. Later on they became simply known as Deros, the inhabitants. Derogatory, energized, robotized organism living deep within the planet Earth. They couldn't get back to their own culture, their own time, or anything else. They became locked on a planet that they had only came to act as planet preparers for. Because of this, and then as the planet proceeded on what was supposed to be done, locked deep inside the Earth was a very advanced being, very angry by now, and becoming degenerate because they were going backwards, where the people that they were here to create and the life forms that they were here to use were going forward. Based on that, you understand that the world within not only talks about within you, as I explained with your organs and glands, but talks within the world that you live upon. And that whole series then of what happened down there, who was down there, how they interface with the people on the surface, how they begin to split up against themselves with D-Rows and T-Rows, how they begin to fight wars down there, even be generated to cannibalism, and how from time to time other intelligent life forms, instead of observing what they could, the surface people would always come inside our planet, go inside the waters and go down, go inside what is called the holes at the poles, and go in to find out what was really happening, because the records of what happened here are all in the inner world, not on the surface world. The surface people also got cursed, much like the original elves got cursed, the light benders, the elves. They got caught up in an electromagnetic field, which means that they had to experience death, they had to experience a slowed down physical existence, and they had to experience only sleep to get them into the real consciousness that they have. Everybody here sleeps. You must sleep every 72 hours or you die. You go to sleep standing up, you go to sleep driving your car, you go to sleep jumping off of a building, because you must get out of the body that you're in, because the people who have melanin are not corporeal. They are not this physical. And everybody sleeps so that they can become real. This is why sometimes you wake up, you don't sit in the bodies very well, you wake up, you can't move, you can't scream, you think you see things, you see a different dimension, and then pop, you're suddenly in and scared to death. Hope it never happens again. You must come out of the bodies every 72 hours because you are not physical. And to honor only the physical is to forget your existence, your creators, and all that's locked within. The more you can dream in color, the more you can meditate, the more you're attuning to the planet Earth, which is now trying to talk to you again. Especially if you have a pineal gland, and especially if you have melanin. Pineal gland is what lets you stay physical and still mental at the same time. It is your tuning fork. And as it vibrates by how much energy you collect during the day, it gives you back in dreams and visions at night, which is what is called psychic, if you want to call it psychic. Now, I'm not talking about the page psychics you call on the TV set, I got nothing to do with that. But that whole existence, those that live in the world, those that live inside the world, and those that live above the world are the three divisions of our earth. This is what you refer to as the Trinity. As I told you, I didn't understand the creation of things being just a triangle. That would be above and below. That would be your triangle if you want to say that. But that's just taking part of it because the triangle still exists within the circumference, which is the planet. The donut-shaped planet, if you will. All the things about what happened down there, what still happens down there, how the Jewish people came into being, and got some of the books that were from the first stage of the underworld, the lost tribe that they referred to, the 13th tribe that wandered, all the things again about the coming of the Macedonians and what do they call this guy, Alexander the Greek. All of these things about Kemet and Samaria only are childlike when compared to the ancient history that caused all these things to happen on the surface above it. Right now, they're fighting a war and they keep going to skirmishes over in the Mideast and over in the area that we now call Arabia and Jordan and all this. That's because one of the closest cities to the surface is right over there in that area, and they want control of it. So they give you the map, so they're going over to fight the Kuwaitis and going over there to fight King Saddam Hussein, the madman and all this stuff. By the way, I didn't call it the madman, I'm saying this is what they're referring to. All of that is child's play. They want control of the city beneath Lebanon. This is why the Blue Mosque was built there, to show the people that the same kind of Blue Mosque, if you look at that Blue Mosque with the crystal, it's just like what they call one of the space Bentleys. Got a big crystal on top and has portals and windows and all like that. It was a place where gods had come to, a place that they called sacred. People are not dumb. People, if anything, are very humble. And they still have this feeling that there's a sacred reason for their existence and there's something that governs them. It is the people who are not born of woman's womb that don't have that feeling and feel that they are gods and don't understand that they're humble to something else. That's why the Christ is inevitable and the Christ always comes in series. For 312,000 years, the same thing goes on again and seemingly we continue to fail. The world within is just an area that can be inhabited, that you get away from all the fallout and bombs and wars if you can stay down there. The point is, how do you successfully stay down there without guidance, without knowledge? That wisdom and that knowledge has been locked up in sacred books, locked up with the people who again have professed to keep it away from the mortals on the planet Earth now on the surface, and especially for people with melanin who they consider goyim, dumb animals, but who they fear because they know if they ever understand who they are, they have the power in dreams and in sleep to control the whole planet. They don't teach you this, and consequently they won't tell you about the underworld. That is an overall synopsis on something that could take days, months, and years. I know I kept out a lot, but how could I go even deeper in a limited time without taking it step by step to show you? That's the overview, and I pretty much thank you for it. Okay, now I guess the fun part. We'll open up within reason the questions and comments. But I mean the reason I do have to go to bed at about midnight. Okay, and we open it up.
I was interested in the sequence you were talking about because while I was actually in Taiwan, I saw a map.
Speak up a little bit, please.
Okay, I saw a map of these gases that are kind of coming up out of the waters, like volcanoes or whatever from below, but it was all scattered around the states and this whole continent, but not so much around Africa. You know, it was all around Japan and everything, just these little dots along the shoreline of gases, and that was explaining why the Bermuda Triangle action was happening. It would actually this gas would suck a plane in or something, or it would cause it to combust.
This is what the people said?
This is, yeah, they were showing like footage of it.
Okay. I agree with the first part. I don't understand the second. The first part, I totally agree. There are fires I have upstairs off the internet. Just areas all over the planet that are just on fire. And they're shown up by spectrography, again, as either infrared little burning points, red points, or white points taken by satellite. I have a different understanding for the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, and the China Sea as being vortices, or areas that areas on our planet where the different vibrations would collapse on each other. But that our planet is on fire, that volcanic activity is happening all over, I totally agree. Questions or comments?
Is it any truth in,
Speak up a little bit, please.
is any truth in the saying that Irish people are the Jews? Ooh, girl, what's your problem?
That was a great.
I was thinking about those rides. I said, well, anyway, okay,
You spelled something. You spelled that spirit.
no, I'm sorry, that road. That wasn't serious. It was a slow. I mean, it was a great ride.
Oh, I agree.
I thought it was one of the rides. Yeah. It was saying that they said that the Jews came from the underneath the mountain of the moon.
The mountain of what?
The mountain of the moon, you know, in Africa, and that what's the name of the group that? No, the ones who went to the Jewish thing. Assyrians. Assyrians.
Abyssinians?
Yeah, they came from the top of the mountain of the moon,
Oh, no.
and that's where the Great Mother was. You ever heard anything like that? The Great Mother was Egyptian.
Okay. Is there any truth to that? Truth is in everything. It's just limited and sometimes covered with lies. As I understand, the Druids were the Caucasian people who got some of the old texts, usually from Jewish people, and they began to try to form the same kind of spiritual groupings that their ancestors had told them had so much bearing on what had happened there. As you know, the Irish and the English have always been fighting. The Scottish did it in fight when they had these little clans. It came not only from serfdom, but when the land was divided to the elders there, and for different reasons. And then later on, the people began to covet the land and covet this and that. But the knowledge was that this whole area was an experimental area. Keep in mind this: when you go to Scotland, Ireland, or wherever you go there, these lands are still draining. There were marshlands, there were islands. At one time, they were completely uninhabitable except for fishing, mule type people. This is why they are still draining. That's why you have the Scottish moors and so on like this. The people who were there before them decreed that this land would sometimes be inhabitable. What I can simply say is this: the Druids are like, I don't want to compare them. They are new to the game, but they are heads and leagues above some people's knowledge of metaphysics and deeper teachings of metaphysics and the hidden books and so on and so like this. They took a lot from the ancient Hebrew people, and very few people can speak Hebrew in the old Hebrew. They have a derivative Hebrew. They took from the Masoretic text. They took from the library that was at home, which later on they called the Alexandrian Museum and Library. They took from the old teachings that was in Mesopotamia 1, under Sumer and all. And they began to then try to use these decrees and so on like that. They misunderstood astrology, but they are now teaching a form of it. They misunderstood phrenology, how the shape of the head can tell you who made you, where you were made, and all this kind of stuff. They misunderstood the lines which are imprinted, and they say it's no two palms are alike. That's not true at all. Certain printed people have palms exactly alike. Certain people have the same birthmark. It told you what time that skin was stamped, what DNA was used. I'm being facetious, but I'm being honest with you. There's a lot that went on here. You will have people that are Asiatic who will have the same birthmark as a person who is Kemetic, or a person who is called European. Again, well, European is not a classification. Caucasian, if you will. There's a lot of things we have that are similar because it's more or less like we've been controlled, that we've been gene manipulated and spliced, and that the teachings that explain how this was done were the ones that they took out of the Old Testament. The ones that when the bibliographers in 325 AD said we would no longer teach this, and we'll get one people under a state religion. So I can only say is the Jewish people belong to the 13th wandering tribe that went into the Netherlands, were captured by aliens, and later on made to escape by extraterrestrials, but they had the mark. One of the mark was a hook nose. It comes what they call a bat, that's a hook nose grave. They still had this whole hook nose with the hair growing out of it because they were gene spliced and manipulated. Okay, and then they had to live on the surface as well as inside. They had to breathe differently. But the books and the teachings that were with them are the things that you're interested in. Those were in the ancient libraries inside the earth, supposed to be closed to a time when the people who wandered away could again come into consciousness, and they were not just on tabloids and on paper, they were written on little discs that would activate the brains and make the people begin to realize who they were once played. That's why even the teachings and the symbols, but they didn't use letters, they used pictures, and they used vibrations to activate certain parts of the brain that were supposed to be dormant until the time when they were awake. That's best I can get. Questions or comments?
So, what sources of information should we seek other than like your tapes to get a little bit more insight as to how one would survive?
Well, to get information, you go to any book you can, and as you know, they have metaphysical libraries now that are growing. In fact, crossover channels and all the rest of them now are having whole metaphysical sections as large as the whole library. So people are demanding this knowledge because people are awakening. You don't like my tapes, don't buy them. You don't like the books, don't buy them. But go within. Books are only written by people or recopied by people whose consciousness at one time vibed to that book. But anybody can tune into it if they spend time in meditation. The point is, most people will talk about meditating. They don't even understand how to do it. Very few people do anything but go to work every day of their life. And then they don't like what they're doing. When you go within, you're activating your blood, your mind, your organs, your glands, and you're beginning to tune into what they call the little red schoolhouse. That's one of the Masonic type of metaphors, if you will. When you do this, you now are activating the ability to go within and find out truth. And there's no truth till you decide what truth is. Okay? Because you cannot accept my truth completely because you are not me. Everything that is told to you and you learn, you will question because you're supposed to be a questioner. But for truth, you have to verify it with your own consciousness. The only way you do that is go within and spend some time. You can read all the books that they publish. You can be very erudite with that. But until you go within, you don't know what truth is. And your truth may not be my truth, it may not be not truth, but it simply means we're spending time to do it. So I have tapes based on books I've read, experiences I've had in my own meditation. Other than that, I can only say, I can give you a bibliography, but the bibliography will only be what people already froze into writing in a book. We're going through the same business.
Now, what about, do you have any books on technique of going within?
I have no, I take that back, I have one book, The Book of the Prophecy. My stuff is orally on tapes. And until 2 years ago, years ago, I wasn't even going to write a book. Now we're in the process of tapes.
You have some tapes that might suggest how you might be able to go within?
Yeah, I take some meditation, techniques of meditation.
Okay.
Did you say you got a book?
No, I say that I haven't written any books. I'm writing now. I took a vow of silence for a while, so I didn't want to write books, but I was able to speak orally. Most of my stuff is on tapes. Again, but there are books, and I do reference some of the books on the tapes that I did study. Again, I can tell you books, but most of it's condensed on the tape anymore. I got 85 different tapes. Okay. Questions or comments if there are any?
I wanted to ask about the auras. How do you see auras?
How do you see auras? I have a whole technique that I like to utilize. If I can, folks, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please. I have a whole class that I teach on the human aura and how to see it. The techniques that I use with colored light bulbs, techniques that I use by compressing breath and using the various four basic breaths, different things along that line. But I think anybody can see it. It doesn't take that long to begin to study. Yes.
Would you explain alchemy?
Alchemy? Alchemy is a, how can I explain alchemy? Well, it's supposed to be alchemic street, okay? Alchemic street. It is a form of magic by which the chief form of the alchemist was to turn base metal into gold and enhance the philosopher's stone and recover it, which are all metaphors, all right? Alchemy is the ability to understand self and the world within you, so that you can better understand the planet and the world within it. And everything in there has 7 different meanings. There's a brother going around, I won't mention his name, telling everybody they should read the, a lot of the book out, in order to gain certain insights. The insights you need can come within you anytime you spend 15 minutes a day for about a magnetic month, 28 days going within. But alchemy is a science that understands how things are combined. But even though they will talk about stones and minerals and azure and crystals, they're really talking about the deeper portion of the glands and the mind that goes through the glands, which is the human body. Save you a lot of time. That's exactly what they're talking about. But you can affect that on an individual thing. You can do it on the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom, insect kingdom, whatever. You can still do it. But it all is perfected in the philosopher's stone with the concept of beings and who they are, what mind is, and how mind can be activated and so on.
Now I might ask you about, these chakras and how do you get this Christ consciousness? You know, and, all this stuff is involved in what is it? Open up your chakra, that's what I'm talking about. How do you open your chakra?
First of all, you have to believe there is a chakra, and there are chakras. And if so, then we have to understand what supposedly chakras do, or what they are. If you open up the body in circle, you won't find a chakra, but the area of concern from the gland will be there. If chakras exist, and they're called wheels of life, that's what the word chakra, spinning wheels of life, are there, then it means simply that they aren't obviously just physical, but they're working on the spiritual, mental, and soul planes in addition to the physical plane. And they are like the energy waves that help you to control all of them, or to help you control one while you're still physical. Once all of this is believed, then you go to the gland by which the chakra is activated, and you try to perfect it intensely. And so doing, the wheel then forms faster and controls more area around you. So suppose you can control up to 20 yards away, and mentally can go miles away. Once you've activated these chakras, and they say that they're basically 7, there aren't, they're 15 to 18, depending again on the dimensional frequency of that person. In other words, how aware they are of themselves. But it's a way of saying that people are not physical, that they are simply energy units captured in the body, and from time to time you can begin to be what you really are if you can get the body strong enough or the mind strong enough to spend a little time out there with the overall chakras. Okay, questions or comments or statements on the inner world if there's any? Yes?
As you stated that you have a tape at which a person can practice certain techniques and be able to read the chakra to see, or.
Yeah, we have a human aura and how to see it.
And so like right now, what aura would you see in that direction?
What aura would I see for you? I need a dark background for you. And you have a white curtain which you know reflects light, condenser light.
That makes it more difficult?
Oh yeah, you have a white and blackness, so you are against your light background. Okay, I still think I can get this. I need you, I guess one of the walls. You can break the white curtain. That's better. Let me, you stay there. Let me turn. No, you stay where you are. I need that too. Okay, we've got a strong energy field. I see light green, I see red, and I see yellow. You're a seeker of knowledge. You also have a love life that is trying to be perfected. You want to become more mental than physical. You have a healing ability. You've healed many people. Whatever you do with herbals or whatever again is there. You just changed the thought. You thought about the person who I was just talking about with the love life. There's a problem with you now in the fact that you're beginning to, well, I don't want to get hurt. In general, the highest order there is good. You have a strong constitutional body. You had a physical challenge that started you on this some time ago. And you also know well what I mean by meditation and dreams because you have visions. And there's a grandmother. Okay, I can see yours. Right, that's okay. But it's under certain conditions that I see.
Can y'all get to see mine?
Well, I can see anybody's, well, anybody that's not human, you know. Well, again, I need conditions. Just sitting like this to see here against his field.
I'll get over there.
I don't want to do a lot of readings tonight now. Okay, let's just go there again. Let me switch. Okay, you need to work on your health very quickly. You have a lot of energy, but it's not channeled correctly. You're not doing what you want to do. You're doing what you have to do, and you're not doing what you should do. I'm talking to you in metaphors that hope you understand what you're saying. You have a vitality about you, and that's what's keeping you going. You are a very deep spiritual person, but you have it out in the physical, and you are carrying yourself with pure thoughts, and you're strong. Let me get into some positive stuff. The same thing again. You have a love for knowledge and wisdom. You lack a love for physical that's been able to be justified and given back to you. You are a searcher for mental health and many things that are mental, to the point that, as I say, you need to go back and work some on the physical. You've had two people to take from you way more than they should have. You've given, but you now have reached the conclusion that you need to stop giving and give to yourself, and you're fighting to do so. You've got a law case coming up here too, and you need to work on your physical body, like yesterday. You're strong. Well, you see, you're coughing and all that too, because that's emotion. I spread it on some water there, I didn't know. And that cough is not a real cough. That is an emotional cough. You have a lot within. You need to get things straight with two people. First thing I can tell you, there are two people that you have not forgiven, and both you felt have taken too much from you. You're a giver, because you've accumulated. But I'm still saying it's affecting you physically. Your biggest thought to me right now should be on getting your physical body right. That's what I'd say.
So Dr. Blair, in envisioning the aura as it appears for you, it's not just a seeing of energy levels, it's also an ability to read circumstances and events.
Well, the colors of the aura depict certain meanings once you study the aura. Now, most people confuse the electromagnetic field with the aura. They call it one. Everyone with an active bloodstream and an active brain will give you an energy field. And the energy field can be varied by what they call the physical potential of energy that you have. But played on that, much like a projector on a picture on a movie screen. Played on that movie screen is an aura. Now, that comes from brain waves and thoughts. And each thought generates a sound and a color. So when you read that, depending how far it plays on the screen, shows you the intensity of that thought, and then the kind of thought is interpreted through the colors. I was born psychic, so as I use that, then that just triggers me to just meld with the person and begin to, like that. That's why I guess I somewhat laugh at these so-called psychics. I'm not laughing, and that's it hurts me to see it being misused, that's all. So when you really get it, you just tune in. It all comes from meditation. You first go within you. Once you go within you, then you can go within somebody else. You can't do a thing until you begin to understand your own self.
Are the long heads the same people as the people within, or are they from some other place? And long heads there?
Well, both.
Okay.
The Negrito was the little man placed on the earth to go every place on earth and become a part of it. That was the original prototype, given melanin, the gift of the gods, so that it could live on the surface, anywhere. But the species, the long head means spiritual, psychological. It means the ability to have a progressed pineal gland and spiritual insight. A person spends more time in the spirit than he does in the physical. Short frontal lobes means direct ability, attention, pragmatic individuals. And of course, the one with the middle shows a balance between the two, just trying to, again, to balance it out. So head shapes phrenology shows you pretty much what the person's body was formed for and what gifts that person should have. Everyone has a gift. Pretty much it.
Excuse me. This whole thing where the East meets the West, and where the Western mind is starting to study the Eastern philosophy, where white people, Caucasians in America and across the world are starting to meditate and practice Buddhism. Do you think that this is going to raise some of the Europeans' spiritual levels and take them out of the material existence, raise the level of spirituality? Do you think that this actually will work for them?
Yes, and I'm not being nitpicking, but since we're getting more to a more calmer metaphysical approach now, let's use the correct terms. European, there are black Europeans, and white Europeans, yellow Europeans, again. European, Europa, the Princess Europa is what this whole thing was named after. The people who are Caucasian in embodiment now, Caucasian in embodiment now, have felt that this soul needed the experience of a Caucasian body and training mentality at this time. And it is only when all races, and we say that there are 7, can come together to figure out the best that each one had to offer, that the planetary mind can be at peace. Until then, each one is jealous or coveting or holding that the other needs, and yet they're all sharing the same planet. Race is a bugaboo because of misteaching. If you actually go amongst a person before they get trained, you can coexist very well. And you'll be psychic, and you both speak the same language no matter what the language you speak. But when you're isolated, trained, programmed, and given do's and don'ts, and then the natural weaknesses and strengths of the different body forms come about, then the problems come about. Now is the time when all that has got to be erased. It will be erased whether it takes a complete annihilation of all species, because the soul can't be killed. So this is a matter now of who propagates what, mentally and physically. Okay, sir. I'm sorry, were you? Okay.
I had a couple, two-part question. What the gentleman was just speaking about made me think about something else. But my question was, in terms of our physical existence here on this planet, when we're in our physical state as we are now, are there things that are going on in different planes of existence at the same time that have to do with my embodiment or my spiritual self? For instance, as you said, when we go to sleep, we go into this other consciousness, or the consciousness is awoken. My question is, are there things that are happening in a different physical or different spiritual plane when I'm asleep, or things that come back and affect me in the physical later on?
Yep. Thoughts are things. Whatever you fear, hate, love, or covet, you bring towards it. Dreams are a way of showing you the progress you made for that day. It should be daily tabulated. Thoughts are things that are dimensional, multidimensional, where some people believe, as you obviously are thinking, We are multidimensional distances, multidimensional creatures, locked into a uniform, and you're right. At least I agree with you, that makes us right, of course. But in general, it's that the person has to exercise the other consequences, especially if they're an old soul, and therefore sleep and meditation. Sleep does it sometimes so it locks out memory. Meditation lets you remember and enhance sleep so that you can use these other consequences of your soul, your mind, your spirit, your body, while still physical, which enhances the quality of physical life and also the amount of knowledge and wisdom, hopefully, that can come from that knowledge. You interpret better, things are just brought to you. If you have to be somewhere, you'll be there just to hear it. You'll hear conversations, whatever you need is given. That's when you get more and more into the other body, because now you're really showing why you're alive, other than just being alive. You're living, not existing.
And just quickly, the Caucasian race today, now, do they have melanin in their system? And because, I've heard different, things. And if they don't have melanin, do they have a spiritual consciousness?
The people from the Caucasus range, which are missing out, because not every white person comes from the Caucasus range. But the word Caucasian is formed by Blumenbach in 1705, and what he really looked at, he didn't know because he was studying skulls. Either way, the people who have melanin can tan. If white people, classification, colloquial speaking, can tan, they have melanin. Many white people get freckles because the melanin is not broad. It's a lower grade of melanin, which can only come out with cells that are intense enough to handle it, so that's why they freckle. But even the freckling shows the pineal gland and some kind of melanin intent, which is coming from a lot of miscegenation and a lot of every other thing. People who eat a lot of chlorophyll can activate whatever melanin they have because chlorophyll is translucent. It's photosynthetic, and it helps your body become photosynthetic, which is an excellent conductor of melanin. It's a lightweight carrier. Any type of person who has a soul that is old, no matter what embodiment, from time to time will change that body into being what it wants to be, just sheer will or adventure or experiments or something else, because the need to change it is locked in there. We change and alter our characters all the time as we get knowledge of how to work with chemicals and how to work with every other thing. But we also have chemical evaluations mentally, which is called alchemy, by which you can also change those things. Right now, the so-called 7 races of Earth must amalgamate, or the Earth will not hold. So we all, I feel, have been at one time various races. And I'm a hypnotherapist, and I have seen people under hypnosis talk other language, even change contours of the face, play instruments, and they say they can't. Lets me know that somewhere in that consciousness, whether it's through what they call, I can't think of the term, reincarnation, or whether it's from multidimensional existence, that multifaceted brain can be there. So it doesn't matter to me whether you call it reincarnate or whether you call it multifaceted. I think the same thing is still there.
I had a question. We were talking about the auras and the chakras, and just looking at her aura. Is there a way for us to see our own aura, and how do we come in touch with that?
You can use a mirror, but that's a very dangerous practice unless you're given instruction. You see your aura in a mirror, especially with backlight. But that's not good to use a mirror, and especially not a mirror with a backing to it.
And why is that?
Well, that's because certain backings hold energy. And you don't want to do that. Especially you don't want to borrow somebody else's mirror, especially if they look at it every day and all that.
Okay. And how do we come in tune to our own auras? And what, like we were saying, when we sleep, we have to sleep in order to separate ourselves from the physical. Is there a way for us to come in tune to that while we're awake? To that other level of consciousness.
Yeah, while you're awake.
While we're awake.
Yeah, meditation. Meditation is not going into sleep. It's going into an altered state. Usually, probably delta, which is better than alpha or beta. It goes into that state by which you can recall and still be actively there to transfer consciousness if necessary. It's not like you get into a deep comatose state by which, you know, days will pass and you're gone. The more you do this, the more you can almost understand, let's say, the thoughts of the day. To really clear your thoughts each day at night by going to a state of meditation first or so, is to really understand what happened to you that day. And it's one of the best teachers you'll ever have, and probably one of the best psychologists or even psychiatrists that you ever have. But yeah, it's just a matter of spending time with yourself.
Dr. Blair, what if in your dream state you're contacted by people who have left the body? Especially
Usually,
people that you really just didn't know, but they keep coming to you.
that could be a number of things. And it might not be a dream state. It might be at night when you think you're dreaming, or are. Many times, as you know, they have the rapid eye movement, REM state. Before you get into the REM state, you go through a playback by which the left brain plays back the events of the day and fantasizes about how they could have gone and what should have been said. And that gives you the direct methodology of what happened and what should have been extricated, what could have been done had you thought different. Then after you move to that, to the REM state, then you begin to fantasize and embroider on that, what you might have done, will do, and then comes collectively what is a big argument. Then do you begin to recall what you did in past lives and try to make sense of it, or are you out there, as the brother there said, multidimensional, and again like this. Each individual was different, and I couldn't intelligently tell you what to do. When you see individuals there, it's because you're going through that process, but I'd have to know much more about the individual. Another thing too, if you dream in triplicate, have the same dream within 28 days, one night, day, month, then there is more than a dream there. There's a message there. There's something that you haven't gotten straight. If you dream it consecutively, then it's almost like a prophet. There's something you need to change, or something you need to heed there that your higher consciousness is trying to reach you before it happens. Okay? Okay, we kind of got away from the world within. We're getting in the world within us. Again, we're going to a whole different subject. But since you're going to buy all my tapes and stuff, right, I'm going to go along with this, right? Yes.
Dr. Blair, when people died, do they sometime, a lot of times people who are dying before they die, they might say that they see somebody coming for them, or before I'm asking that, because fashion I was with her before she went into consciousness. She
Got a
was
smile on
calling
her face.
somebody.
Got a smile on her face. Good.
She was calling somebody, and I said, "Who are you calling?" And she turned to me, and she was speaking, but I couldn't recognize the language. It was like she was talking another language, and she was real happy. And then later on, when I was with her when she died, matter of fact, I closed her eyes. It's something that I became increasingly aware of, is that people, they could feel like they give off some kind of glow. It's like the whole room was kind of like glowing, but it was, it had a light to it. And so it made me really interested in the death process. Do people actually see people coming to them? Do they have this kind of experience or something? Somebody's coming to them, the parents or relatives. I know my mother used to always say that her mother was going to come to the angels.
From study only
I know that.
of the death state, many people say the same thing, that the room lights up. Many people say that a ball of light comes into the room. People experience all the light out in forest areas where the trees enhance the light fraction and all that. That the soul, therefore, not having embodiment, it means it's an energy creature coming, and it is now illuminated. If you're psychic, you see the illumination. The person's soul now is being called out, so that illumination begins to hit the body, and of course, it is such a feeling of elation that all the pain and everything that was on that person's mind is forgotten about it, so then the facial characteristics become more pleasant, because the soul is about to leave. Usually, an energy let's put it like this, it would be lots of intelligences coming at that time, mostly good. And they would take on a form that would be easily recognized by the person because that would make the person more quiet, more acquiescent, more complacent, more calm. Persons, you can see what they want to see and they see what best registers on the last part of the brain. Doesn't have to be that the loved ones, it's a person that is high in consciousness that wants to. The movie, not The Arrival, whatever it was, where this woman went on this big space thing for Caucasian, that was an excellent movie because it helped them to see the spiritual. Where the person, she lost, supposedly she dropped through contact, but she's gone on. Well, that's the thing. And usually intelligent life forms will take on a form that best is pleasing to you.
Okay.
And the consciousness of consciousness.
I mean, I see quite a few people that possess quite different spirits and abilities and stuff like that all the way.
From the islands? Are you from the islands? Where are you from? Yeah, my dad's from Trinidad. I would say this, that as you know, other guys that do that now, they do that way they do. When you, melanin, especially if a person is born under direct full spectrum light, like on island, is very active. They have a strong psychic ability, musical ability, rhythm, and they can tune to things. When it is desecrated with any kind of drug, whether it be pharmaceutical prescription or, hybrid, it messes up the melanin and it begins to work double on that person because it is like a poison to the pineal gland. And so when that's done, they suffer and are caught up much worse than a normal person would be because their body is used to full spectrum light, unpolluted air at one time, and they just get possessed. It's just really. I have a tape called Drugs in the Astral, and I used to work in the drug rehab program. I've actually gotten guys off of drugs by just hearing that, because one thing is true. With the person who has a soul, they know when they're doing wrong, even though they have a conscience. And when they know that they're doing wrong and that they know down deep within there's a penalty to pay, that fear of the unknown when they go to sleep and when they're alone, they can't stand to be alone, they can't stand to be sober, will sometimes help them to extricate the poisons from their body and that programming that has made them turn that way.
I mean, I know people up here, like, from Africa or from, they don't have a particular religion, like the caste system or the Yoruba system that they, might go into a state of possessing this particular deity or something. So I want to know, is that like going within as we try and existence? Or, is it something at a level of consciousness or...
As I understand, limited as I am, it can be either. Sometimes if your psychic power or your spiritualness or your melanin is strong enough, you will draw to you or put yourself in places where the event can happen. Sometimes if you're in an altered state, you will see what is already on your mind, and because there is a spiritual body, you will see the spiritual plane. It really kind of depends on the individual and the time. It would be very hard to state this is what happens then, but any of those ways it can happen. Mind is a powerful tool. Okay, let's see, we're losing people. Any other questions or comments, especially about the world within?
Well, anyway, I've had, in the last 6 months, I've had so many extraordinary things that I haven't been able to, I just accept what comes because I don't know what's coming. And what I see or what I feel and everything. But I've been, I finally got my shopping. But when mine
You finally got them open? You practice opening them?
mine opened up, mine opened up. I felt like you said, you were in this whole, I fishbowl, I didn't feel like, I felt like I had electric right now, feeling around me, pin sticking right straight through me, holding me on the couch. But my eyes were open. And at the time, I was asked all these questions, and it took me back to when I was 23 years old. That's when I started doing things that were. And I was drilled about my life, and at the end of it, everything I was really harassed. I was really, questioned severely and almost like punishment, So I'm answering and explaining to them why I did all these things, But I never intended to hurt anyone. I didn't never intend to harm anybody. But I thought if I did it like that, it would help them. You understand? So anyway, at the end result of all this, I was judged by somebody. I don't know who judged me, but I do know I had a conference with them. But I don't know whether my mouth was moved, but I know I jumped up one time because I was really preaching, because I was trying to save my life. And so whatever it was, the revelation told me that was just my life had been nothing but an illusion. I was so disappointed because I thought all that life I had just had was real and everything, and then I found out it wasn't real. And then, I've never felt so cleansed and never been so sorry and felt so bad as I felt about that. I felt like I was the lowest thing on earth and the dirtiest, filthiest thing ever existed. And I really was sorry about what I had done. And so after that, I started having visions. And I've been in space, and I ran into a grave, and I ran into two of those guys in black. So I'm having some funny, experiences. I don't know where I'm getting them from, but I have had out-of-body experience. And I get revelations. So I don't know what to do with all this new knowledge, and I don't know whether to understand it or what to accept it or what to do. I'm just letting it flow because I don't know what's happening to me. But I do know one thing. When I like to drag race, and I stop that. And if I don't want nobody cut in on me and I'm driving, because I like to take off there. So now I'm told, don't do that. And I stop. So I'm a better person. And I'm trying to protect my life. I've gotten all candy and all that sugar out of the system and stuff. I'm really trying to cleanse myself out. And I know I've been working on a vegetarian diet for about 3 years. And I'm getting kind of cleaned out now. But I don't know what's happening to me and what is this all about. You have any idea?
Well, thank you for your sharing. Same as you know. You're tending up to a point where you're trying to become proud and happy with yourself. So that you can achieve, be all you can be. And I think it's what most people are being driven to do now. Some fight when they have drugs and poison and things like that, but when they get quiet and alone, they got to do the work within.
But I still don't know why that experience with the chakras opening up. I don't know why people want that. I didn't like it. But I couldn't stop it. It just did it automatically. But I don't know how I prepared myself for it because I've been in about 5 different kinds of religion. I studied them all. I've been studying for about 8 years. Really religiously studying fine religion. You get that I can find. And I stayed up, I practiced religion for 2 months. And then, when I got through with that meditation, I got outside my body. I could see it. And I jumped on the phone and called her because I told her to make sure if I was dead the next day that she would know that my skin came off. I saw my body leave and I couldn't stop it. So I called her on the telephone. And I called Fanny too, didn't I, Fanny? You don't remember that Fanny?
Is it necessary for her to go through all this?
I've been trying to find out somebody else that did everything.
Because I was trying, she's my sister, and I be really trying to help her. And she scares me sometimes. And I tell her all that stuff is not necessary. In life, is it?
For her, she thinks it is, and therefore she must experience it.
I'm
If she thought it wasn't, she wouldn't have to experience
I'm not
it.
crazy.
She's cleansing.
I know, cause she been
And,
wearing my dress, I been thinking she gonna cry.
And I try to get fed and help me, but I've never experienced this before. I don't know what's happening to me. You know what I mean?
Well, let me just say this. The overall view, by my limited understanding, is that the planet is becoming more vibrant. And you're on the planet. A lot of people are doing what you're doing, but they're not as open as you. A lot of people have worse things in their soul consciousness and in their conscious than you have. Yours is drag racing, you're a baby. And some people have killed, tortured, maimed, and are still heinously trying to wipe out people, commit genocide. They have a heavy dharma and a heavy karma, both of them. So each soul must work with themselves. Life will work for you. To help you get on the path, you got to walk the path yourself. So this is your time to do it. I'd say honor that. Do that first mind, and the first thought tells you to do it, you get better.
And I got a revelation saying that I am a light bearer. Everybody's got a job to do. You've got a purpose to come back around, what you're supposed to be doing. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. You have to come back again. But I'm supposed to be a light bearer, and what happened was my twin and my light went out. No, our lights got dim. And what I did was gave my light to my twin. And I came down there to put on the skin on my body, because I was like, I had seen myself without no skin, with my eyes open too. And I saw inside my body, my bones and all the parts of my body. And you know, I've lit up all this light all through here, and I'm looking through here, and I'm in my house by myself. And you got all this light, and even when I went to space, I was awakened, and I was born, but I was like this when I went to space. And I was just flying. And I was going through something like this brown, and boy, I was moving real fast. And I got her, and I saw, that's why I was telling you about the crystals and things. That's the way it looks up in space. You see all these lights shooting everywhere.
Isn't that you said for helicopter? I didn't know she's my sister.
But you have to
I
talk
thought
to
you were gonna take her somewhere to get
It
us some
scares
help.
me.
Okay, well, she's going to it because she wants to.
You go to
It's
this-
reawakening thoughts that she's forgotten. She hasn't forgotten it, but it's the way she chooses to do it.
Dormant.
So once it's done, then she'll move to something else. Or if something else happens within her life that can, make her understand it better.
And
She's
she
enjoying
loves
it.
the-
You're not enjoying it. She's enjoying it.
She showed time on
It's
my
reactivating.
I've got a question. The world within people, will we reach a point where we come together with them? It seems like they're more advanced.
Some are. Most of them are left over from destroyed civilizations, so they understand well. When they reach the pinnacle, some people are saved alive. They transmute, they walk with God if you want to, like this. And therefore, they have their extraterrestrial, not even. They're empathetic, sympathetic, some of them even have pulsations for it. So usually they make contact during these kind of times. And physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever way is necessary. To let you know if you are the chosen, if you are there. And then most of the time you begin to kind of feel it yourself. You're told to go somewhere or do something. When you got those drives like that really are coming from within, that's the thing you need to do as you walk.
I'd like to ask when.
I'm sorry, I saw her. I'm very sorry.
Would you identify the seven groups and the 7 types?
Races?
Races.
Wow.
Sure.
Well, you have your so-called surface races, white, black, brown. Okay. Then you have your mixtures, and you have your inner races. They can really go on. Each one of those can produce 5 prototypes. But you have basically those that are inside you. You have a draconian type that looks like a lizard. Then you got one that looks like a hairy type thing. You have one that looks like a dinosaur. That's why the dinosaurs are coming back again now too. Everything now is about reptiles and all this stuff. Because that consciousness is still trying to hold back the draconian return to dracons. It's still got a 13th planet. It's still out there. And each person, there's some people who don't have 32 vertebrae. Okay? Some have 14, some haven't had a tail. People have Shermans that come from the Netherlands. They have one where there's been something removed. We collectively think we're all from the same spot, we're the same creator. That is not true. Some people aren't even born of the womb man. They were placed here, or they were spewed out. It gets very deep, but there are basically 7, but there can be countless number of life forms in the cosmos. Not all of them come here.
Do you have any comment on the Dogon and their Cyrus?
The Nomo and Sirius A and B and C, and Sirius A, B, and C. It's still just talking about A, sometimes B. The binary star cluster and the Nomo were the ones that addressed the Dogons when they came from the area that we now call the Mediterranean. They weren't born in the journey town. And there they met the sea, they met the amphibian creatures, by which then they were explained that they came from area, they came here through the Merkaba, and the Kabbalah explained the Merkaba, and that they were here from Sirius A, and had serious business to take care of. And through that, of course, they began to refer to this as the Nomo, the fish creatures, and something like that. The Dogons, again, you know that one of the old saying was they're going to the dogs, okay? And they're going to the dog star, Sirius B. But there is, in the Sirius cluster, which is ruled by Arcturus, there is a lot of dimensionality there. You can go broader. But understand something here. Earth, as I understand, limited as it be, is a very special place by which all of these star systems, the thought that they had something to give, were allowed to come and focus it on a planet like this, so that people here could be speeded up. One thing, to come through here and get through, you're triple promoted. Okay? You jump dimensions. So even though it's hell, in one sense, the spirit that can come through in just and right action gets a huge reward.
Are you saying that the different spirits came to the Homo sapiens or human types before that also?
You see, now here's where that training program that they gave me and you works havoc.
Right.
They've got Homo erectus, Homo prodicus, Ponticod man, pit down man, forget that. That is their way of delineating foolishness. It doesn't take that long to do it. They're looking for the link that can never be found because they are the link. Okay? What they're simply saying is that this earth is open. And some people are born in souls and with souls, and some people are soulless because they're replicants. You have hybrids, replicant clones, you have frequency dimensionalizations. This planet can hold it all. So I understand what they're saying in the limited fashion, but it's not necessary to go to that to get to the truth of what happens. Every time you sleep, you dream. Some people remember their dreams, some don't, based on the quality of knowledge and how much they fear or how much they cover. When you cleanse the body, open the mind, and say your prayers before you go to sleep, which means when you go to sleep, you should never just go to sleep. Don't just lay down in bed and go to sleep. One time I would say that if you have a mate, you might be able to get away with that. But normally, you meditate in the sleep, and you tell yourself what you want and don't want to occur while you're asleep. And that you want to learn from your sleep existence, and you want to remember that can help you go. Now you're using sleep, because that is just like you shut down this room, but you now walk into another room that is your house. There's as much happening in that house, but we've been told to concentrate on one room in the house. And it's a mansion, much like my brother has it. Many rooms, many things to do, much space. So I simply say, use that for the testing to make the money. Don't use those as Homo sapiens and Homo erectus and this kind of thing. No, it didn't work like that. You have man, which includes womb man. You have mankind, and you have human. And all of those are different. All of those are different. They just draw the categories and go straight to.
One last quick question. Do you foresee any safe spots
No.
on the planet?
No. If you're safe from acts of nature, you're exposed to acts of humans. If you're saved from acts of nature and humans, you're exposed to acts of insects and animals, and birds and creatures, which have also turned on humans. If you're saved from those, you're open to acts of frequency changes, well, I call it acts of nature. If you're away from big cities, it's better, if you can do so. If you are in areas that you can survive while being away from the accommodations of big cities, it's better. But then you have to watch out for the acts of nature. Places that are good now may not be good in another 13 months. And places that are now bad now might be okay in another 13 months. You see, so much depends on consciousness. And that's why there's so much effort being given to mind control, subliminal suggestion, programmable things and like this. Because they want to control people so that people will not do what they need to be doing. Every place that you go, as I say, I have a map, we have preparedness meetings every Saturday. And people that were going to Alberta, Canada, they got fires and volcanic eruptions going in volcanoes. People going to Botswana land, they're going to Ghana, to Accra, they're going some into Nigeria, some are going, to various places. They're having political unrest and strife. The animals are now coming out of the jungle, and only the Rishi men are able to control some of them. You see, there's so much going on now. And keep in mind, as I stated before, for those thinking of going to Kemet, the structure under there is so gold and so silver, those vibrations are going to go berserk. And those animals who have a consciousness, they're going to go berserk too as they adjust. In addition to which, the Caucasian man is already trying to contaminate the ground, biological form, and air forms in most of Kemet in Africa.
And what type of, you said fungus?
They got everything released in there. They got everything released in there. But the land itself, what they don't understand, it's just a matter of time. The land itself will not accommodate what they're creating because the vibrations will get so strong. The point is, the vibrations will get so strong because of all this gold and silver and diamonds in there. It's going to emit a vibration. Nothing can live there, including, unfortunately, some of the men that are there because they have human consciousness. So even though it's a land that is safe, and as the vibrations can match it, you can't live there.
Excuse me. So it's important for us to do what?
Raise vibration.
Will we be able to counteract the negativity, or is it just a matter of us raising the vibration so that those of us who can attune to it will transcend?
Well, that's transcendency. That's good. It may be that you come out of your body and you don't even fear death because before you know it, you're born again. Okay? If you want to keep a fleshly body, it's going to take great effort. Okay? Great effort. And probably lots of suffering until you raise consciousness enough. As I state, in times before, by my limited understanding, certain people, once they raise their vibes, have been collected and invited to places of safe haven.
Right.
To look at places that are now safe havens may not be. And I speak to you this way. You're in Detroit here. You got both water to contend with and a peat moss fire that's been going underneath Pennsylvania, Ohio, and everything else. You've got Baffin Bay and you got the Great Lakes. Then you got fires and volcanic eruptions to the Madrid fault line. You got good consciousness, but everybody doesn't. So here you are amongst them. Now you may be one of those that is saved alive while everybody else dies in the physical. You see what I'm saying? But it is an unsafe place. Okay? But any points you name, it's either political, the act of humans, acts of nature in retribution and revolting against what has been done, karmic and dharmic spirits in the lower heavens which are being placed down amongst people from Boreal. There's so much going on. To know it is to say it's become like me, neurotic. Okay? But I am not psychotic. I still see the understanding that is why this is taking place, and I still feel in consciousness I will be saved. Whether it's alive and physical, whether it's to know no death and transcend, take on a body again, or whether it's to be called and chosen, I have no idea. But I do know, again, that unless you raise those vibes, you You can't reach that big hand that's reached down to the bucket mire to try and grab it. You got to leap up and jump up sometimes to grab it. And that means raising consciousness physically, mentally, and spiritually. But that's my understanding of it. Of course, there's no truth. You decide what you say.
How do you raise your consciousness, your vibration?
Just by what you're doing, spending time on a Friday night with some crazy discussion. Changing the diet, you know you're supposed to.
Food has something to do with it too. Eating has something to do with it.
Everything has something to do with it. Because you are in your body. And what you do with your body and your mind and your soul is you. That's if you want to be a God.
So what?
You heard me. You want me to repeat it?
Say, I know I said everybody.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be curt. But you know what I said, you just want to repeat it. Repeat it in your mind first, and then you tell me back what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. The mind, the spirit, the soul, and the body, all under your charge. Whatever one you think you are, that's probably where you will wind up. But since you have now have a gift to work on all of them at the same time, the more you walk on all of them successfully, the stronger you're going to be. Probably the best result. Feel good about the whole thing.
Wait a minute, how long do you feel that we have? I mean, Mayans say, say 2012, that we're going to change physically. What do you feel? I mean, do you feel that a lot of people are saying around the year 2000 or beyond?
Well, some say the Mayan calendar runs out in 2028. Others say 212. Some say 2005 ice, like the book. Understand, by my interpretation, the Mayans were really Olmecs. Anytime these archaeologists talk about Mayans, they don't want to tell you Olmecs. The Mayan culture was has very little to do. I know their whole religion is based on Mayan calendar. But the Olmecs were the Mayans. But the Olmecs was Leroy, and that's why they don't want to deal with them. And the Olmecs had an advanced pioneer manner. Even coming through their head, it was so advanced. And they could communicate with other everywhere, if you will. So their calendar was based on the Venusian calendar system. But they did not originate on Venus. They originated from the Sirius, but they spent time on Venus. So these were people that got left here that were kind of lost in space here, that as they tried to get their signals straight, as they karmically had to go through a penance for what they had done as Venusians. I know it's confusing. But the overall is just simply this. No matter what the calendar, time is an individual thing for each individual person. If we listen to enough of the Art Bell and read 2000 Ice, and read the Holy Bible, and read the El Quran, and read the Talmud, and read the Papugo, or whatever again, we get indoctrinated with that thought, and that thought will become our reality. If enough people have the same reality, they can change everything immediately, or the planet will obey. The planet will not obey wayward children. So whatever you think and study and believe is probably what's going to happen.
But you're saying the planet will obey, which I've heard, but are you saying too that it's really in our minds that this is an illusion? And it's really in our mind and it's projected like a hologram?
Another way to explain it, yes. We are living in it. That's why some people dimensionalize and space-time travel and all that. People can't see them, all this kind of thing. When you believe you're losing is reality. That's why there's so much talk now about virtual reality. Because virtually we are creating. They even will give an event by the end of this year, and probably in November, of a holographic event that never will have happened, but people will believe it happened. And for certain religious belief people, it will be wonderful. But it will be contrived, agreed to by the Catholic Church and its prelates, to bring about any consciousness evolving and control of a certain amount of people. But the event will never have happened. It will be a hologram, reported by controlled press. People will see it, people will read it, and they will believe it, and they will act accordingly. It has nothing to do with reality, whatever really reality is.
Like a plane,
Oh yeah, There are people who love to play with the mind.
They're bringing up consciousness. Like they did the Christ consciousness.
It did the Christ.
Let me ask you this. What I'm wondering, when a person die, individuals die and leave the body, are there different planes or levels that people go to when they leave the body? Because man himself is spiritual. But then his spirit leaves his body. Then he goes to another world, into the spiritual world. Do you believe that, according to the way a person lives, there are certain levels that one go to, everybody don't go on the same level?
Each soul has its own weight. Each consciousness has its own ascendancy. You go where you think you should go, and you go where you know you should go, and you go by what your deeds have done to let you be good and bad, something like that. And there are so many souls, so many searches, so many experiences, that there's always going to be somebody there wherever you go. And this is where they say birds of a feather.
Yeah, but I believe there will be people wherever you go. But according to this religious idea that's spreading to people work all their lives searching for truth, and they rely on religion. They feel like that they have done everything that the Bible instructed them to do, that they're supposed to go straight to the Almighty in heaven, and they're supposed to get their rewards, get their reward, but there are other people doing different other things. So I was wondering how could that setup be? One is deeper in one thing, one don't care. I mean, so I feel there's certain planes in the spiritual realm that one goes to, because some don't know enough to go to a higher plane. I mean, certain levels that we go to. It all depends on how much we're conscious of, how much we know.
What can I say when I hear wisdom? Questions or comments?
Yeah. What entity does our solar system revolve around?
What entity?
Yeah.
What sun? Or what
What sun?
archangel?
What sun does our solar system revolve around? What would be considered, I guess, the central sun to our solar system and whatever other solar system revolve around?
Light from their bodies. They got power.
No, I'm saying like the sun and the 9 planets or whatever number of planets we have, plus whatever other suns out there that are revolving around the same entity. Well, what entity is it? I mean,
the only way I can...
The way I see it is that it's like the solar system is almost like an atom. I mean, a macrocosm of an atom, right? Is that correct?
I believe.
And then I'm just taking it, like one step larger, I guess.
Well, if you're going to look at it from a very broad hermetic point of view, each sun is a chakra, but not a chakra within itself, a collective chakra. And it represents collective systems which have no chakras, which then become the planets around it. It's the destiny of planets to become suns to become chakras within the main chakras, and to go to other chakras. That's why I say it's nothing new under a chakra, which we've interpreted as sunlight. Nothing new under the sun, because there everything's controlled. When you create your own light, and your spirits come together to create light, you don't need a sun, and therefore you can expand and there's all kinds of new things created.
Can I tell you about that revelation I had about shine and this light we're supposed to have? I never heard it read it in a book out the first. But anyway, it says that the Great Mother is pitch black. She's so black that she shines. And that's the light that used to be like the moon, what they call the moon. Okay, so when you get get that glow and that shine is there when that melanin gets cooked and baked until we get back like we used to be black. If we don't get, I think what we're gonna do is, if we don't get back to that shiny blackness, we not gonna make it. So we not even got to that sun and get some, because that's what's gonna make us light up. And
Well,
light skinned
I
people
couldn't really
can
agree with you.
shine.
Yeah, I couldn't really agree with you.
Okay.
That's why they talk about black holes in space now.
Right.
They said they absorb light, and everything goes in, nothing comes out.
Right.
That's not true. But when it goes in, it gets converted. When it comes out, you don't recognize it because it's converted. That's what melanin does. It converts.
Now I'm gonna turn mine to some light.
All right.
I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, folks, we're going to get close down to the end of this one. We're getting tired, but okay, yes.
You know, talking about many different realities, because they say the next period of age we're coming into is the age of Kepius, or the age of the Nubian man. Are we talking about on a physical level, or just spiritual, or what?
The age of Pythias and the age Tepius. And is that, okay, I don't want to name it, but the belief system here is that Ma.
No, that's that Egyptian. It's the polar, it's the North Star constellation that comes every 3,700 years.
Okay, and the belief is what now?
That we're coming into
That-
it.
Okay, well, you have 26,000 years. And then you have these two cycles, one at the equator and one at the North Pole, okay? One changes every 2,160 years, the other one at the North Pole changes every 3,700 years. Okay, they meet twice in that cycle, once at the beginning and in the middle. So they're getting ready to meet. And Aquarius will be the equator constellation, and Kepius, which is the Ethiopian king, will be.
Are you asking me to verify? Do I believe it? Do I understand it? Okay, yes.
No, I was asking, we're talking
You
about.
explain what she said.
We're talking about
Okay.
many different realities, and that is one. And I was saying, if we're coming into the age of the Nubian man, does that mean the Nubian man in terms of our physiological structure, or are we talking spiritual, or just what? Because see, we're talking about perhaps all things changing on earth and no one able to tolerate it, unless perhaps they, ascend to a higher level. But I'm saying, is it possible that with all these things changing, man can still maintain his physiological self?
It's possible, but as I interpolated, as I interrelated to the questions and comments being made by everyone who chose to share, we have soul, mind, body, and spirit. Which one do you love the most? In itself, it wouldn't matter which one you say because you can't die. But if you're talking about physically saving it, you're not talking about dying. You're talking about physically saving a body through going to life. And other people's bodies who you also do. That might be impossible. And it might be that it's all possible, but you would interdimensionalize so quickly that you wouldn't realize you'd changed anyway. That's what they call it a twinkle. And suddenly your enemies would be gone because actually you attenuated to a higher vibration and they had been left in a lower vibration. You would not even be aware until you suddenly began to call in consciousness through time that certain things that you didn't like weren't there anymore. Which really what happens when you're on death anyway. Okay? People love it so much because everything they believe in is now there. To strictly state that when Polaris, when certain star clusters and astronomical guidance systems say it is time, this is the time, it's debatable. What is time? Gregorian, Julian, what time really is? Olmekian, Mayan, what is this, what is that? The thing is, becomes consciousness. And as you think, so will you be. And if it's done in a peaceful way, you don't even realize. You change, and suddenly what you like is there, what you don't like is gone. That's heaven. But it's all pretty much a state of time. And let me say this. Most are agreeing that the coming planetary alignment, which will be by at least 5-5, 2005, when our Earth will be in juxtaposition to all other 11 planets in our solar system, or 10, plus one will be halfway between, that the pull on Earth itself will cause Earth to change. And at that time, people there might say Earth imploded, Earth exploded, Earth vaporized. But the light frequency will bring it into a different reality, a different star cluster, and the people on that will think that they're very much alive, when they're now they'll be like angelic, because the quickening will have happened. If our planet does align, because so many voices and consciousness is occurring, speak up, and the planet can take a questioning position, then we might still go on, but through the earthquakes and tornadoes, there will still be a remnant saved alive. Maybe it'll be the group that's within, or you call it. So many variances can happen because so many thoughts can be generated. But where the collective thought is, and the collective thought of the planet, which recorded all these thoughts is, that's what will happen.
I have a series of books called the Soulcraft Scripts. And
what?
The Soulcraft Scripts. It was written back in the 30s by this fellow who was channeling and doing automatic writing. And in it, he speaks of our psychic energies being able to affect the physical world. And those areas of the world where people are real negative were creating a lot of disruptive weather patterns and stuff, things like that going on. So when I look at what's happening in this world today, that all seems to be bearing more fruit because the world is more chaotic and people are more chaotic mentally, and then the physical is getting more chaotic too. What point was I trying to make by saying all of that? I guess when her question was about the changes that were coming in the coming age, and you asked what was more important, the body, the spirit, or the mind. Yeah, if we can get our souls together, if we can get our minds together to allow our souls to be free, then it really wouldn't matter what happened with the body unless we wanted to affect change within this body. But you can't do it by yourself. So like when you were experiencing your psychic, adventures, I'll just use that word, because you were by yourself, it was frightening, But
I wasn't scared either. I was gonna fight. Nothing gonna touch me.
Yeah, but if you had a group you were working with, or could support you in it, then it wouldn't come on you so harshly. And when it did come, you would be able to understand it. Just even if everyone in your group was at the same level as you could discuss it and piece it together.
You know what they say? You blow their mind. They think you're crazy.
No,
so you don't tell them.
I'm talking about people in your group who are all trying to do the same thing. Y'all are all on the same level of trying to get there. They wouldn't tell you that.
Your group, maybe you and I could get together with some other people like you and me. You and I could do it. But you just can't bring this into anybody.
But you're not supposed to.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But there's not a group. I've been looking all over Detroit. I haven't really been. I'm looking for one, so I'm here tonight to see him too. Because he's the one got me into it. That's why I said make sure you get his tapes in there. Because he can tell you how to open up your chakras.
I'm gonna ask you one more question.
I got to tell you tomorrow what the name of that tape is that I got at home that I really good.
Someone was telling me that black people, when they die, when they got that pineal gland and everything, and back during slavery time and throughout the crisis on earth, black people always believed that at death, after 3 days, they would rise again. And this is the same as what Christ said. After 3 days, he would be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. And somebody was telling me that that's the reason why they didn't fear, because the black people knew that they jumped off those ships when they would bring them to slavery here. they jumped off the ship because they knew that if they died, after 3 days, their body would rise again. So what is this saying? They go from home.
What does
Would
that say?
resurrect, yeah, their bodies would resurrect.
That some people believe the body will physically resurrect after 3 days, and some people may have practiced.
May have practiced. And then there's some people, could someone may have resurrected?
Well, I've never seen.
That would be a matter of strong belief systems. I've seen some interesting things about it. I can only say that to most people it would work because their consciousness is not that strong to manipulate matter or put up a force field around them that would allow that kind of transmutation. At the same time, I have seen some interesting things. I say the mind is capable of tremendous things given the right energy fields. So I can never say no or yes to anything completely. I can only say for most of them I don't think that's what happened. But I will say this, in their minds by believing it, if they can hold that thought at the time when the soul came out of the body, or the spirit came out of the body, they would probably experience this that because they would then control the energies and the mind that they then had, become more universal. Religion is a very strange vehicle to express what people can understand. And since there's so many different religions and so many different books exposing and espousing and working on those events, then I don't know that a religion would take you through, but a consciousness probably would. That religion brings out that consciousness.
Was there an alignment around the year 1000? Because they say during that time, people thought the earth was going to come to an end. There were terrible things happening. So they then proceeded to practice very negative types of behavior towards one another. I mean, but it didn't come to the end at the end of 1000. I'm just wondering if there was any type of planetary alignment at that time or what have you. But the people, they did all kinds of gastric disease and things because they felt that this was it.
The year 46 AD was the year of confusion, and a lot that happened from that time on had a great impact 60 years later at the so-called year 1000. Now, if you're talking about AD or BC, you're talking about after the Advent, Annus Domini, and the belief in Jesus Christ and His coming, when the year then counted from that time, or you're talking about something that transported before it.
I'm talking about the
Pardon me?
I'm talking about 1000.
Okay. Again, understand. When you say 1000 AD, you're saying to me 1000 Annus Domini, which means the year of our Lord 1000, in which from that time on, time is counted forward, which from that time back, time is counted before Christ, BC. That is a religious belief. And Pope Gregory and Pope Julian changed those calendars where Christians don't really know what time it is at all. And Buddhists tell them that, and Christians say, your God is not my God. Your Buddha is not my Jesus, therefore you are wrong. Well, the calendars under the Roman Senate, which they had what was called the pontiffs, which you get pontifical mass. It was a pontiff's duty to appoint time and keep track of it. And Rome was so involved in wars that they lost 475 days, and then they lost another amount of time. They didn't know what time it was. So they simply got together and agreed that this was now the time, and they counted time for us. And they had a pontifical mass to celebrate it. They don't know what time it is. And the Gregorian and Julian calendars are wrong. They're ill-dated calendars based on celestial clocks sometimes. So when you use that term to me 1000 AD, you're stating to me Christian calendar, pontifical, Catholic, mass created time. And I can't honor that time because I don't believe it. Now, that there was a time, sometime that this may have happened, becomes what the stars are supposed to show. That's why they use celestial navigation and astrological clocks. But understand one thing, they're using sidereal and they're using the equatorial time. And if our Earth has shifted, if our poles have shifted, we may not be looking at the same time clock that they had at all. Better than yet, with a more scientific mind, if we understand that the Earth is honeycombed with ley lines, lines of magnetic force forming a grid, if they shifted and the Earth stood still, it would still shift time. So it's hard for me to say the way you presented it, what time is, what happened at that time, and so on and so forth. By understanding the conscious clock of the planet, I think a lot may have also changed. Probably still expected.
I'd like to ask a question. Why do the Jew, the white Jew, you would say, I'm talking about the European Jew, say that Jesus idea, the Christ, has never come yet? Why do they say that?
That's a long story. Best thing I can say is that they are the 13th tribe that wandered off. Well, no. You have to kill that camera. I'm not going to go. I read
I'm sorry, the keys.
The keys of Enoch and the book of Abijah and the signet of Moses and some. I've had people interpret it for me. Okay. I've not read each scroll, no. Let me say, there's a lot of wisdom here. That's past knowledge, and that's beautiful, and I appreciate your letting me address with you and learn from you at the same time. I'm in town for 2 more days. Tomorrow is supposed to be the one at the Unitarian Church, which the subject will be the Great Pyramid, a pyramid update, right? The things that are happening there. If you are as aware as I feel you are, you're already taking steps to reach certain realities. I bring products to make money and to give to people what they need. The money allows us to research, travel, make contacts on our plane with people we think can really help us. The products will help you themselves. If you can get the word out that we've got some products here that can help people, magnets, diodes, progesterone for the females, water treatment things to get all those chemicals and Lambia guarding E. coli out of the water, things that can help people immediately to help themselves. Then you benefit the Center Multi Direct, and you benefit our research, which you may be able to help a whole lot of people because we've got some very advanced studies going on. Yeah. Other than that, I simply say I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing with me, and may the Creator bless us all because we're going to need. Amen.
About that.
No, this what? The cream?
No, the one about that water, they need to hear about that, about the 35% peroxide.
No, this is not the one.
Oh,
We
you
have,
didn't bring that
no, I didn't bring that. We have 165 different products. I only bought a smatter. I bought the ones that I felt that helping people who said that you can't bring them, I guess something like them. This is KO7, which is not hydrogen peroxide, 35% food grade. This is a liquid substance that you put into water and it kills off any anaerobic bacteria which have a left spin because it makes the spin right, which means any virus or bacteria will die in the presence of it. They cannot live in pure oxygen because they are not pure. They're vampires. They live off of death. This also will help impart oxygen into water. My suggestion is you use it only in steam distilled water. Store by it if you have your own distillery. You put it in there and you have your 90% on to a pure water, which will raise the vibrations of your blood and all the glands that it goes through, and also put more oxygen. Our body works on an oxygenating principle. And the more oxygen you have that's pure, the better you heal, the better you think, the better you do everything. We also have another one I didn't bring, which is called crystal energy water. You can buy that in liquid form, or you can create a pyramid yourself and place it under there for 42 to 72 hours and begin to get the same results. This crystal energy, it changes the molecular structure of the water to become that could get into the cells faster. So wherever the water goes, you purify it better, you break down cancers better, you dismiss tumors better, you clean yourself up better. So we have all kind of oxygen products. This is one, and most of it works better with water. Good steam distilled water. So that's what this is.
Do you all sell water purifiers? I mean, with distillers or any type of technology? Like
yeah, but we don't sell them for a big price. Meaning by that, you can probably go to any water company and get a better one, probably the price we'd sell it to. We can get them because we have a lead to develop. What we're presently doing is that we have the kind you can portable take with you, so that when you pour in the bad water and put it through your micron filters, reverse osmosis filter, and your charcoal, then you add this to it, you can make it good water and you don't have to be stuck to a water supply. But if you're there for a while, you can treat most of your water, making steam distilled and add this to it. And it's a quick way of speeding up heating like that. We have contacts for all of those, but that's a whole field in itself, not water. What we believe in more is oxygen. And it's oxygen in the water. The water just makes it liquid so it can tend to physical. But the oxygen raises your whole energy so you begin.
What's the difference between the other water?
I'm sorry.
What's the difference between boiled water and distilled water?
Boiled water will kill off some bacteria. It won't do a thing for the chemicals in the main, and some bacteria larvae will live through it. Steam distilled water is evaporated, recondensed, evaporated, recondensed. If it's triple distilled, it's done for the third time, which eliminates, converts most of the chemicals, all of the bacteria. And then we treat it with this substance, and then we even added, to say, a molecular thing to change the bonding of the water to free it from everything else, and that'll get into you where it's supposed to be. So it's supposed to be 75 to 80% water. Yeah. Boiling water won't take care of a lot of the stuff it's doing it now. The steam from it now.
But a filter thing, those water filters, how much does it really help? I mean, when we drink filtered water through, those one that we buy and have the water come through, do you still have to put that in that kind of water too?
It depends on the water you get. The thing to ask on any water purifier is what is the TDS ratio of it, the total dissolved solids. Then the next is how much oxygen does it still impart, or it's capable of holding and bonding if you add it to it. That tells you what your water will be. Without that, they have reverse osmosis, which takes forever and you lose most of your water, but it is good. They have reverse osmosis with micron filtration. They have reverse osmosis with charcoal and batting. It goes on and on. But the thing is, what is the TDS? The question you asked is, what is the TDS ratio? Total dissolved solid ratio, and how much oxygen is still capable of bonding to an organ. Whatever unit gives that to you, then you've got a good unit. Okay, folks, I want to thank you.